And there is something kind of devastating potentially on the horizon. To backtrack, I mean, the first iteration of of media consolidation happened in the 90s with Bill Clinton with the 1996 Telecommunications Act, which effectively took away the rules in place on how many radio stations a certain owner could have in a market. And it allowed corporations like Clear Channel to just buy up tons of stations. And
so they can pretty much control the market for a type of radio station.
Yeah, and the consequences of that is radio has gone down in quality, and the airwaves have just been polluted with drivel because it's a playlist, it's a cookie cutter format across the country. There's no character.
It becomes
in
an
radio,
algorithm.
and it's all used for the interest of the corporations and then their subsidiaries.
Somebody says, so is Clear Channel the Enron of the radio industry?
There's something to be said about the diversity of musical tastes of the DJs across the country.
Absolutely.
And you lose all of that individuality and flavor of the location that you're listening to radio at when it just becomes a playlist created by Clear Channel because of some metrics they figured out on polls.
You no longer have personalities who curate the music, like admirable, interesting people choosing playlists. You now have like board members in a meeting deciding what they're going to play and how often they're going to play it.
Yeah,
but,
well, 13 to 17-year-old white girls in Oklahoma are really like this new Katy Perry single.
So effectively, it just destroyed the character of the radio for the most part. Well, right now, they are talking about potentially loosening those ownership rules even further. The reason this is going on is there's pleas from basically those Clear Channel executives that they need to loosen restrictions to compete with the current media landscape.
They need to continue growing. Their entire model is based on the idea of infinite growth. And when you already control a third of the media landscape, you need to eliminate all other rules.
So what's unfortunate is that it is it's very possible that this will go through because it's the Trump administration and the current head of the FCC is more than in favor of deregulation. But what would occur if this goes through is in small markets, a single owner could buy every single station on the AM band. There would be effectively no limits on small market AM stations, and then in larger markets, like Minneapolis, you could buy most of the AM band. And
which, if we continue progressing in the rate we're going, maybe they'll own the whole band in 5 years.
And FM, it would take away the restrictions currently in place and allow, I think, double the amount of stations you currently can own.
Which is incredible because think about how few owners there already are.
Yeah, there's about 6 that major companies that own like 95% of the media.
And then there's probably 3 that control 80% of that, right?
So it's scary, and the way this works is it comes down to just a person who decides if this is going to happen. I mean, there's like a council as well, but it's not an elected power at all.
I think it's the chairman of the FCC, right?
Yeah.
Who is also very popular for his role in eliminating
the net neutrality.
Net neutrality is the word I'm looking for, yeah. Ajit Pai, I think is his name.
Yep, that's him. So it's likely that this will happen. Fortunately, if there was a Democrat to win in 2020 and appoint a new head of the FCC, you could roll this back. But it's still concerning that a lot of damage can be done before you took it away. I mean, and you can't really change ownership as easily once it's in place.
We're only playing defense at this point. I mean, I don't hear of anyone talking about breaking these companies up.
Yeah, I know. That's what's encouraging, though, that there are Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, there's a couple other candidates that have specifically talked about breaking up the media conglomerates in it. And it's so important.
Yeah, that should be a bigger focus, in my opinion, because
it should.
A lot of the problems we face as a country are because people have this very isolated, fully constructed set of facts that do not align with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
But they're able to construct that because all of the media comes from one source that offers them this different narrative.
Yeah, 100%. And you don't hear it much. Even though they support these things, it's not one of their main talking points that's getting out there all the time. And it's not something that, like, the general public really understands the, like, implications of how this happens, because they kind of, your average person would just take the radio or TV for what it is, rather than knowing what caused the way it is right now.
Sure, you don't ask how the sausage is made.
Yeah. So, oh man, it sucks because the radio has so much potential. It really can be the coolest medium there is. And to just destroy its potential, kill off its cool, pollute the airwaves, it's sad. It frustrates me. Because really, the radio should reflect every single market that it's in. Like, you should take a road trip across the country and go on a adventure through just what's on the radio.
And there's a small enough overhead that it can cater to these more niche tastes.
But what's interesting is we pre-recorded this, and today, me and Eric, today's Saturday, spent the day at Podcast du Nord, a podcast convention that we actually gave away passes to this week on the radio, to the best podcast idea. But what's interesting about podcasts is it takes away the barrier of entry and the gatekeepers in place that the radio has and that, like, Clear Channel has specifically. Podcasting is just available to anyone to broadcast and build their own following, and we're seeing it now, and it's a very interesting medium that's going on.
I'm interested to see how it progresses with the greater prevalence of wireless internet. 4G, they're talking about 5G. When every new car comes equipped with some sort of connection to the internet, what role is that going to play in the role of radio?
And me and Chad have talked about that. It's not necessarily a doomsday scenario for radio or AM radio or us specifically, because there's potential that the AM band could change to a digital-ish just platform that is a better accessible, better signal. It's not necessarily going to just wipe off an independent radio station like us.
I mean,
but we don't know at all what's going to happen.
Same thing happened with TV. Maybe 5 years ago, right?
The antennas and
everyone had to get
switching
those,
to the digital
cable boxes. But no one really noticed the difference. Well, I mean, like visual qualities, you absolutely notice a difference. But in terms of broadcasting, it was about the same.
So it's kind of a mystery what will happen in the near future. Currently, though, radio is surviving. It's getting really good ratings, even with all the competition that